Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. Some of the reflections that I had as a result of the 4-day period we had with Leeds Beckett, a few of them really related to videos. The first one was the hilarious sketch with Dave Allen, where he's speaking to his son or his grandson about how important it is to tell the time and how confusing the explanation becomes. And really that his son really isn't that interested because doesn't see the benefit. And that video really made me think about the research that I propose to do in terms of I see the benefit for me as a coach, researching coach education amongst European clubs, which is the topic that I'm intending at the moment to follow. But really, is the research that I'm going to do be of benefit? Would people really want to know about what happens in these European clubs in terms of coach education? And I think in the video as well, when Dave Allen's trying to explain how to tell the time, it becomes so confusing. And again, really, for when I'm doing my research and doing my writing, is to make sure that what I'm delivering is digestible to the reader, in simplistic terms, to really get any messages across. And then we have the other video with Paul Whitehouse, the Fast Show, something I was a big fan of back in the day, where he's in the pub and he's speaking about society with a couple of his friends and how he changes his mind all the time. And I think he finishes the video saying, "It's not easy, is it?" And that really got me to think about, this journey that we're all going on, this professional doctorate, and that our views will change through the research that we do, and my views will certainly change. And will the topic that I'm intending to present on and intending to deliver, will that change as well? So really, being open to different views and different ways of doing things. That's something, even though it was a comedy sketch, something that I got from that. I think my motivations as well, when we're speaking about intrinsic and extrinsic motivations, that mine is very much intrinsic. Coach education is something that I'm passionate about, and hopefully my research can help coach education, whether in this country or globally as well. And really from the presentations that we had on the Sunday for people at different stages of their work, is something I took from that is to relax, give time to it, enjoy the journey and embrace the process as well. And I must confess that the first few days my head was all over the place with what was happening and how deep the thinking was. But I think it's a matter of enjoying the journey and like I said, embrace the process. There's quite a lot of things that I'm more curious about as a result of the reading. I read the Yates paper and Kahneman and Klein, and also the 4-day block that we did at Leeds Beckett. Thinking Fast and Slow, which I'll come to a little later, System 1 and System 2, is something I'd heard of but really hadn't researched in great detail. Also in the paper from Yates was the cardinal decision perspective, which really highlighted to me, alongside the 3 different stages, preliminary, core and aftermatch stages, that there's 10 different stages of decision making. So it's a lot more comprehensive than what I first thought. In terms of the different approaches to decision making as well, intuition and expertise is often viewed as conflicting. So we've got heuristics and biases, something I've certainly been guilty of, and naturalistic decision making, NDM. So something else I'm more curious about, as I am about cognitive task methods and semi-structured interview techniques, which I could use as part of the work that I do when doing coach observations to really find out how coaches are making decisions and why, what is their logical reasoning behind making particular decisions. Also, something that Bob mentioned as well, a book, How We Learn, is something that I'm curious to read and shall be ordering very, very soon. Throughout the days at Leeds Beckett and reading the papers of Yates and Kahneman and Klein, there were quite a few connections that I made, in particular the work of Daniel Kahneman and looking at System 1 and System 2. I'd heard of his work but really didn't know too much about it, and really seeing how System 1, fast thinking, and System 2, slow thinking, has a place in our lives and particularly in sport. For example, System 1, when you're on the field of play and you're Lionel Messi, you don't have time really to have a stimulus, reflect, response action. It's more stimulus response, so you have to think fast and make football actions at pace. Whereas system 2, which is more gathering information slower, thinking about a potential decision you're going to make, such as team selection, is quite prevalent in the work that I do as well. So really to see that both system 1 and system 2 do have a place, and trying to put that into my context and how it operates within that. Also, in terms of how I conduct coaching observations, so the way that I do coaching observations at the moment is to film the coach, give the video footage to the coach, they provide some feedback, and I provide feedback as well. But what it really provoked in terms of my thoughts is that I'm making decisions on my feedback without delving into further as to why a coach had made particular decisions within that coaching session. So that's something I'm going to look to improve on. One thing in the paper by Kahneman and Klein was decision making and how we know it is the correct decision, and generally it's based on, in history, as a successful outcome or a successful result rather than quantitative performance measures. And as we know, there's an element of luck in sport and external factors that are beyond your control, which can lead to the actual outcome at the end. So it's not necessarily the decisions that were bad, it could be the external factors as well. So that really, again, provoked more thoughts in terms of that. And then reflecting on my coaching career when I first started, making decisions on guesswork from my experiences from many years ago, which weren't relevant to the context I was working in, and really looking to improve and ensure that when I'm making decisions, there's a logical process and an explanation in terms of the decisions I'm making. So, for example, working with another coach within an academy, and I'm suggesting I think we should make this substitution. It's not based on it's a guess or I think it because we did it 15 years ago or it happened in the last game and worked well. It's really logical reasoning to back up and being as objective as possible. So I think in terms of the Yates paper, where one of the parts in there states about across the board expertise is very rare, and that really got me thinking about my context where I coach and I co-coach, and my, I'll say expertise, but I suppose the area that I prefer is working defensively in the game of football, whereas Ben, my co-coach, is more attacking. And really to aid the players' development more is, do we need to specialize a little bit more in those different parts of the game in terms of our coaching and when we're focusing on what's happening on and off the ball on the pitch as well. So that is one change that maybe we'll look at, even though it's good for both of us to do attacking and defending. What is the outcome for the player if I'm doing more attacking, that I'm not as knowledgeable as what Ben is, for example? So that was something that provoked some thoughts. In terms of when I'm observing coaches as well, something that's said in the Yates paper is about not paying attention beyond the first few actions. So that's something that I'm guilty of as well, is not really looking at every single part of what is a coach action or a football action as well. And if I'm spending time instructing from the sidelines and giving keywords to players, am I really observing the different actions and what's taking place on the pitch as well as I should do? One thing that really did stand out for me is how I reflect. And after every session, I do a what went well, even better if, and some action points that are linked into my coach action plan. But really, what am I getting out of these reflections? It's more of an administrative task than thinking deeply about how I've coached a particular session. And another pop-up that I had is when I do coach observations, I do not reflect on how I've conducted that coach observation. So that's certainly something that I'll be taking forward.